Okay, Congressman Mike Lawler, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Obviously, we had quite the process here since it got back to the into the hands of the House. How did you feel about how that all went over the course of the last 24 hours or so?
Look, this was a multi-month negotiation over key provisions of the bill, and ultimately, the House and the Senate had to find compromise and agreement and pass the bill so that President Trump could sign it into law tomorrow. This is the single largest middle-class tax cut in American history, inclusive of lifting the cap on salt 4x. A huge win for New York and New York's beleaguered taxpayers who have the highest tax burden in the country between property taxes and state income taxes. So this was a big win. It was something we fought long and hard on. And in addition to SALT, we extended the current Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the doubling of the standard deduction, for instance, the enhanced child tax credit, and enhanced senior tax credit, business tax credits, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. This is critically important for low and middle income working class Americans all across the country. And I was proud to help deliver this big win for taxpayers.
What were what were the biggest issue? What were some of the biggest sticking points for some of your colleagues that had to be convinced for some of those votes that had to come through and flip at the last moment?
Look, obviously, there were a number of issues that were a focal point, including Medicaid and the IRA tax credits. I and many of my colleagues fought back throughout this process to protect Medicaid, inclusive of making sure there were no changes to FMAP, the federal share of Medicaid costs, preventing per capita caps or block grants or dish cuts to our hospitals. What we were able to secure was eligibility verification, citizenship verification, making sure that illegal immigrants are not collecting Medicaid benefits, as well as work requirements for able-bodied adults. These are issues that, frankly, a broad swath of Americans agree about. If you're going to collect Medicaid benefits, and you're able-bodied, you should be trying to get a job. You should be volunteering or going to school. We want to protect these programs, these vital services, for those that are eligible and those that rely on these critical programs, especially the IDD community, our seniors, children, single mothers, et cetera. So this is about maintaining the long-term sustainability of the program. Even with these common sense reforms that have been put in place, Medicaid costs are going to grow 24% over the next decade. So you're not going to see a cut. You're going to see a slowing in the rate of growth, which is to help ensure the sustainability of the program.
How can you be sure the Medicaid changes aren't too broad? You mentioned the work requirements and the citizen, all those other parameters that are now being put in. How can you be sure that people that need it aren't going to be impacted by this? Because I think that's one of the big concerns, whether you call it a cut or not. I think people are worried about that.
Well, first of all, Democrats are, of course, fear mongering. You have the governor out there talking about 1.5 million New Yorkers are going to lose their health care in one breath. And then in the other breath, she says, but she's going to take care of it. The fact is, this is a situation where if you are eligible for Medicaid, you will receive your benefits. If you are not, if you are an illegal immigrant, for instance, you should not. And that is just common sense. And I think most New Yorkers understand that and support that. Look, New York's Medicaid program is the most expansive in the country. We spend 83% more on Medicaid benefits than the average of the other 49 states. So it's not even close. And New York needs to make sure that those that are not eligible, those who should not be on the rolls, those who are scamming the system, do not receive those benefits, but those who are entitled to them, those who rely on these critical programs, do. And that's something New York needs to take seriously. You look at what Kathy Hochul's tried to do to the CDPAP program, for instance. They say they need to reform it because there is fraud. They say they need to cut down because there is waste in the program. So New York can't have it both ways. Kathy Hochul can't be on the one hand saying that there is waste, fraud, and abuse in New York's Medicaid system, and then on the other hand decry us trying to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. It doesn't work that way.
In terms of those changes, I spoke with someone yesterday that said they only saw 4 of the 21 provisions at the time were actually addressing fraud and abuse. Is that what you understand it? I mean, do those 4 go wide enough, or is it more? Is it
Okay, again, when you look at all of the changes and the provisions that are put in, it is intended to make sure that the program is sustainable long term. There is waste in the system, there is fraud in the system, there is abuse. You look at something like per capita caps, provider tax. The provider tax has been in effect for a number of years, but it's a way for states like New York to get more federal Medicaid dollars on top of what they are already collecting. And so this is to phase down. New York won't see a change until 2031. So it'll have 5 years to get its fiscal house in order on this front. And then you will see some changes to start to right size the ship. Again, the objective is to maintain the programs for those who need it, those who rely on it. And that is the objective in this. But this bill is not a Medicaid bill. That's what the Democrats want everybody to believe, that this is all about Medicaid. It is not. This is about right-sizing the size and scope of the federal government. We are projected to spend $86 trillion over the next decade. $86 trillion. And we're talking about a total savings of $1.6 trillion during that time frame. So that's about $160 billion on an annual basis in a $7 trillion budget. So this really comes down to trying to bend the curve, slow the rate of growth, start to get our economy in a much stronger place where revenue is coming in at a higher clip. We are seeing growth in the economy, jobs being created. That is what you're seeing. You saw just today, 100 and over 40,000 new jobs created, far surpassing what was predicted. You're seeing a drop in oil prices. You're seeing a drop in inflation. That is critical long-term for our economy and for our country. So a lot of things happening all at once, but I think on the whole, New Yorkers are going to see a significant benefit out of this bill. You look at, for instance, and this is a key point, border crossings for the month of June were at 0, okay? New York has been spending billions of dollars of taxpayer money on free housing, clothing, food, education, and healthcare for illegal immigrants, okay? So by reducing the border crossings, by stopping the massive influx of illegal immigration, we are making it easier for New York to stop spending billions of dollars of taxpayer money on illegal immigrants. And that is something that will help New York long-term right-size its own spending, in which state spending has increased $100 billion in just 10 years' time.
If that's the case, if what's going on right now in terms of the border policy is working, why add so much more billions of dollars to ICE and for a border wall and all?
Because it actually requires money to secure the border, have more ICE agents, have more border security personnel to handle all of this. And the fact is, under Joe Biden, you had 10.5 million migrants come into the country illegally. And so they are going through the process of deporting folks, criminal aliens, those who have previous orders of deportation, those who should not be here under a false claim of asylum, which the Biden administration allowed to explode under their watch. So look, there's a lot of work ahead, but this is a positive step in the right direction when you're looking at all of these issues that we're dealing with.
But one more, because I know this was a point of contention in terms of adding to the debt when it comes to all of this. For some of your colleagues, the Congressional Budget Office, with all these projections, is that a concern at all?
Well, think about the logic behind what they're saying. Number one, if you're continuing current tax policy for 10 years, how exactly are you creating a new deficit? You're not. So the way they were calculating this is completely wrong, number one. Number two, they have consistently undercut and undercounted growth in the economy and revenue to the federal government. They undercut the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act by over $1 trillion in revenue when they scored it back in 2017, and they are undercounting again. So when you couple in growth, when you couple in current policy baseline as opposed to current law, and you look at the fact that we are providing savings of $1.6 trillion, you're not going to have a added deficit. You're actually going to start to right size the federal government. And that is what is critical when you look at $36 trillion in debt, $2 trillion deficits on an annual basis, and $1 trillion in interest payments that we are shelling out. There's a lot of work ahead, but this is a step in the right direction.
Congressman, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.